The first thing I do every month, like clockwork, is wire $15,000 to my mom. I don't question it. I don't think twice. It's just part of my life, like brushing my teeth or turning off the coffee maker before I leave the house. I sit at my desk, the scent of fresh ink and numbers still warm from the printer, and hit send. There's no thank you call anymore. Just a thumbs up emoji in our family group chat, sometimes. Then, it's back to work. Spreadsheets, client meetings, more numbers. It's a quiet life here in Austin, tucked between my little one-story home and the noise of a world I mostly avoid. I've always been the practical one. The steady hand. The giver. Every Sunday, we do a video call. Me, my mom Dolores, and my younger sister, Emily. It's always the same: how's work, how's the weather, have you met anyone yet? They smile. I smile. We talk, but we don't say much. It feels like a performance we've all agreed to keep going. No one dares change the script. 8 years of this. Since Dad passed. I became the pillar, the account they leaned on, the one who never asked for anything back. I told myself it was love. Or duty. Or both. But somewhere deep, I started feeling like it wasn't kindness anymore, it was currency. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, I once read. Tony Gaskins said that. I nodded when I saw the quote online. Then I closed the tab and never looked at it again. That evening, I drove to my Uncle Ray's place. He lives just across town, modest home, cluttered yard, smells like fried onions and old paperbacks. We don't see each other much, but he invited me over for dinner. Said he made his famous meatloaf. I went because I had no excuse not to. He greeted me with a hug, handed me a cold beer, and while we waited for dinner to finish, he asked if I wanted to see a funny clip from last month's family barbecue. I had missed it. I was closing a deal with a difficult client. He tapped on his tablet and pulled up the video. People laughing. Emily holding her toddler. Uncle Dave grilling. And then, my mother's voice. Juniper? She's just our cash cow, she said, laughing. Always will be. Silence. In the video and in the room. My throat clenched. The smile fell from my face. I didn't move. My ears rang. My uncle fumbled with the tablet. I didn't mean for you to hear that, he muttered. Play it again, I said, quietly. He hesitated but tapped rewind. This time I noticed Emily nodding, eyes rolling, like it was an inside joke they'd all shared for years. I felt my chest shrink, like all the oxygen had been sucked out of the room. My hands went numb. My stomach curled. All those Christmases I funded. The mortgage payments. The medical bills. The surprise weekend trips for them when I didn't even buy myself a new coat. I thought I was buying love, I whispered to myself. Turns out, I was just leasing respect. I don't remember the rest of the video. Or even dinner. I left early, said I had work. Drove home in silence. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom, thanks for paying the mortgage early this month, smiley face. I stared at it. Typed you're welcome, then deleted it. I sat on my bed and thought of every sacrifice. Every skipped vacation. Every birthday alone. Every next time they'd promised and never delivered. I saw it clearly now. Their gratitude always came with strings. A reminder. A favor. A guilt trip. And I always gave in. I thought it made me good. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just Cold. The worst kind of hurt is pretending you're not. I saw that quote on a bumper sticker once, years ago. Now it made sense. I started digging. Quietly. Opened my financial software, reviewed transfers. Noticed strange routing. A few payments marked Mom's dental surgery ended up in a bank account with my sister's name. Traced another, turns out it went toward Emily's boutique remodel. That wasn't even the worst part. One transfer, $8000, was labeled emergency prescription refill. It had gone to a tile supplier. Vanity Tiles. I leaned back, staring at my screen. I should have cried. I didn't. Instead, I created a new folder. Labeled it Statements. I copied everything. Printed bank logs. Took screenshots. No more giving blindly. I didn't yell. I didn't send angry texts. I started preparing. Quietly. Focused. Pain sharpens things. It made me precise. That night, I sat outside with a cup of coffee that had gone cold. The breeze rolled across my porch. Quiet, but not peaceful. I remembered what Dad used to say. Money can't buy loyalty, honey, it just rents it for a while. I never really understood him. Until now. I pulled out my phone, replayed the video again. No shock this time. Just confirmation. A truth finally visible. I looked at the stars, blinking slow, steady. I would keep paying, for now. I wouldn't give them any reason to suspect. But they had crossed a line. Something had ended. They thought they could keep milking me forever. I was already planning to let the well run dry. 2 weeks passed. Not a word from me. Not because I didn't have words, but because silence does more damage when it's unexpected. I showed up to Sunday dinner with the same smile I always wore, the one that said everything was fine. It wasn't. The driveway was full, just like always. Laughter spilled out the front door. My mother opened it with open arms like nothing had happened. There she is! You disappeared on us, she said, planting a kiss on my cheek. I returned her smile, hollow and practiced. Busy with work, you know how it is. She waved off my unreturned texts like they were leaves on the wind. Well, you're here now. That's what matters. I nodded, stepping into a house that had never truly felt like home. Not since Dad. They asked me about a client I'd mentioned weeks ago. Laughed at jokes that didn't land. Pretended they missed me. I matched their energy, but inside I was somewhere else, watching them, not joining them. Every comment, every glance, every omission, I logged it all. You can learn more by watching what people don't say than what they do. That's something I knew before. But now I was listening harder. At the dinner table, Emily's daughter opened a gift. For my school project, she squealed, holding up a framed photo of the family at Thanksgiving. I leaned forward, smiling, until I saw the photo. I wasn't in it. It was a photo from the same Thanksgiving I had funded, venue, caterer, even the matching table runners. I was there. I remember setting up chairs in the cold morning air. Emily glanced at me and shrugged. We didn't think you'd care. You were working anyway. My mouth curled at the corners. Oh. Right. Inside, it was like something cracked open, again. Not forgotten. Erased. It wasn't just absence, it was the decision that I didn't matter in their narrative. I remembered that day clearly. I was there before anyone else. I paid for everything. Smiled through exhaustion. And yet, deleted. They don't just take. They erase when it's convenient. A sentence floated up in my mind like a cold wind. The worst part of being used is realizing they never considered you family, just utility. Later in the evening, over dessert, Mom brought out a piece of paper. I've been working on my speech for the retirement banquet next week, she announced. They want me to talk about family sacrifices. I took a sip of tea. She kept reading, her voice full of pride. I'll say, every step I took was to give my children better lives. I carried this family on my back. I blinked slowly. My name wasn't mentioned. Not once. Weeks ago, I'd been asked to speak at the same banquet. They said they'd love a tribute from the daughter who gave so much. Then Emily called to tell me they ran out of time. Sorry, they cut a few slots. Now I knew why. They didn't want my voice. Just my contributions. You know I love you, Mom said later as we cleared plates. But you don't need the spotlight. You shine enough already. That sentence stayed with me, like a bruise. You're only welcome if you stay in the shadows. That night, back home, I opened my journal. Wrote down, guest in my own family. Underlined it twice. I began writing down every time I was removed. Photos. Invitations. Moments where credit vanished but the bills didn't. They hadn't just neglected me, they had built a structure where my role was funding, not belonging. Sadness didn't last long. It curdled into something sharper. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I changed a small detail instead. The next morning, I called my accountant and asked him to reroute the auto payment for the water bill, put it on hold for a week. Nothing dramatic. Just a pause. Mom called the next day. Hey, did something happen with the water bill? It didn't go through. The utility called. I kept my voice steady. Oh. I'll look into it. Must have been an error. She bought it. I hung up and stared at my ceiling. They only notice you when the faucet runs dry. The package came on a Wednesday, tucked between bills and junk mail. I didn't think much of it until I saw the university seal. My alma mater. The one I'd quietly written a check to last year when they said the scholarship fund might dissolve. Inside was a glossy program from their fundraising gala. I wasn't invited, but I didn't need to be. I flipped through the pages, reading the names of founding donors. My eyes stopped. Julian's name was there. My brother. Mine wasn't. I blinked. Checked again. Nothing. A small caption below his photo read, in recognition of the family's generosity. I remembered the call vividly, the panic in the development officer's voice when he said the program would fold without immediate funds. I wired $25,000 that same day. Julian didn't even return the text when I told him. I called the alumni office. There must be some mistake, I said. The woman on the other end paused before replying. Oh, Ms. Lee, the donor recognition was coordinated by your family. We were told your brother represented the household. I thanked her, hung up, and just sat there. My chest felt tight, not from anger, but something older. Familiar. A quiet kind of grief, like finding a childhood wound that never really closed. It wasn't just this plaque. It was everything. Every erased gesture. Every time I let them speak for me because it was easier. Sometimes the only way to stay in the room was to keep shrinking. That sentence came to me, and I hated how true it sounded. I leaned back in my chair and let the memory come, the one that always hovered at the edge of my mind, waiting for moments like this. I was 14 again. Sitting halfway down the stairs, knees tucked up, chin resting on my arms. The living room glowed below me. Julian had just come home from his award dinner. The house was full of people. Mom's voice floated up, laughing with her friends. She's bright, but she'll never be the face. Julian just fits better. The words landed like small stones. Not meant to wound, but they did anyway. That night, I didn't cry. I started helping more, dishes, chores, errands. Anything to be noticed. To earn my spot. I thought if I made myself indispensable, they'd see me. I stayed on that staircase a long time, watching life happen below me. It became a habit, being near, but not in it. Back in the present, I found myself walking up my own stairs at home. Hardwood under my feet, the sound echoing just like it did back then. I was 38 and successful, but that teenage girl still lived inside me, always waiting to be invited off the steps. Resentment mixed with something else, longing, maybe. I didn't just want credit. I wanted to belong. I stood at the landing and whispered to the empty hallway, no more silent partnerships. The next morning, I stopped by Julian's office. I brought a folder of tax forms, an excuse. His assistant waved me in. He smiled, the politician kind of smile that looks good on paper but never reaches the eyes. "Hey, sis. What brings you here?" "Paperwork," I said. Then, casually, I saw the alumni gala brochure. He leaned back. "Oh, that. Yeah, Mom said you didn't want attention." I studied him. "I never said that. I just didn't expect you to erase me." He laughed softly. "Come on, Juniper. Why dig up old stuff?" "Old?" I smiled back. "That was last week." His jaw tightened. The silence between us thickened. I gathered my things and stood. "I remember more than you think," I said quietly. He didn't reply. I didn't need him to. That evening, I sat in my home office, sorting through some old files stored in a cloud backup. I was searching for property tax receipts but stumbled upon an old voicemail file. The name caught my eye, Dolores, autosaved. I clicked play. Mom's voice, crisp and familiar, filled the room. "You know, her money makes her think she matters," she said, laughing. "I raised her. The least she can do is pay it back. She owes us." Laughter followed, someone else's voice, faint and cruel. I hit pause. My hands trembled. Not because I was shocked, but because I wasn't. I pressed play again. And again. The words didn't get easier. They got heavier. Each repetition chipped away at something I'd built to survive. This wasn't about money. It was about worth. A lifetime contract they thought I'd never read. I saved the file. Not for proof. For remembrance. So that the next time I doubted what I knew, I'd have the sound of truth to anchor me. Later that night, I drove to my childhood home. The lights were off, no one lived there now. I stood at the base of those stairs, the same stairs where that quiet girl used to sit. "When you grow up in silence," I murmured, "you forget what your voice even sounds like." I wasn't going to sit anymore. I wasn't going to shrink. It was time to take a seat at the table. On my terms. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. I'd just left a meeting, juggling my coffee and phone, when the voicemail icon blinked. The voice on the message wasn't familiar. Shaky. Female. Ms. Lee, this is Laura from the Community Outreach Fund. We've been audited. We need proof of the donations. Your mother's name is listed as the primary contact. Please call back. The message cut off halfway through a sentence, but I didn't need more. My stomach tightened. It wasn't her voice, but it was about her. I replayed it twice, sitting in the driver's seat, the air conditioning roaring. My palms were slick on the steering wheel. This wasn't a setup or some minor mix-up. It was real. A real organization, a real audit, and my mother's name right in the middle of it. I leaned back, staring at nothing. All those payments I'd made, the monthly family contributions, the charity support transfers. I thought I was helping. Instead, I had built her stage. They were the face, I was the funding. When you fund someone's story, I whispered, you don't always own their truth. It should have made me angry, but mostly I felt cold. Numb in that quiet way you do when the suspicion you've carried finally proves itself. I didn't cry. I didn't curse. I turned the key in the ignition and started planning. That night, I opened my laptop and logged into the shared cloud folder my mother had created a couple years back. She'd called it family transparency. That word had always sounded like a joke. Buried 3 folders deep under projects 2022 to 2024, I found a spreadsheet named Renovations and Emergency Payments. I opened it. The first line hit like a slap. Donor, Juniper Lee. Next to it, recipient, Mom's account. Then a series of notes labeled consulting fees, each amount matching the transfers I'd made. The total sum could have paid off a mortgage twice over. Scrolling further, I found another tab, Oversight. My sister's name sat neatly beside mine, her role listed as project coordinator. I laughed under my breath. Not bitterly, just disbelief mixed with something sharp. They didn't just take. They recorded it like a business. It wasn't just that they used me. It was that they made me disappear in the process. I copied everything. Screenshots, backups, timestamps. I saved them to an external drive, then another one. My heartbeat matched the clicking of the mouse. By the time I closed the laptop, I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. The next day, I texted Cassandra. Lunch today? My treat. She showed up at the downtown cafe wearing sunglasses and the air of someone too comfortable. You look tense, she said. Work trouble? Something like that. I smiled. I wanted to ask about a project you're overseeing. Her fork paused midair. Which one? The one listed as consulting fee. Her lips parted, then curved into a smirk. You always see the worst in people, Juniper. I kept my tone level. I just learned how they see me. That landed. Her expression tightened, her posture defensive. Where are you getting this? She asked, voice suddenly sharper. I set my phone on the table and turned the screen toward her. The spreadsheet glowed between us. Would you like to respond to this? She stared, then scoffed. You're jumping at shadows. No, I said, they made shadows out of my name. Her chair scraped the floor as she stood. I'm not doing this. She left the cafe without looking back, her untouched plate still steaming. When the door closed behind her, I exhaled slowly, steadying my heartbeat. That evening, back in my home office, I opened a secure message to my attorney. Activate the freeze on the family mortgage payments, I wrote. Secure the ledger. Any further transfers go through me. His reply came within minutes, confirmed. I'll notify the bank. I sat still for a long time, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then I opened another tab and began rerouting all my automatic payments into a trust account I controlled. No more shared access. No more silent withdrawals. I sent one last email, to my mother. Short and clean. Check your statements. I've updated the account details as of today. I didn't wait for a reply. The silence that followed was the most peaceful sound I'd heard in months. For the first time, I wasn't the one reacting. I was the one moving the pieces. My mentor once told me, you don't wait for them to step on you again. You move the board. Tonight, I finally understood. The sun dipped low. I made dinner, ate half, left the rest. The city outside buzzed, unaware that something invisible had shifted. Around midnight, I heard it, a knock at the door. 3 sharp taps. I hesitated, then opened it. My mother stood there, hair undone, eyes red. Juniper, she said, voice trembling. We need to talk. The bank called. They said you changed things. The hallway light cast a shadow between us. I looked at her, not as a daughter, but as someone finally outside the web. I didn't ask why. I just asked, what are you going to do now? She blinked, opened her mouth, then closed it again. I shut the door slowly, the click echoing down the quiet hall like the sound of the first domino falling. The next morning, sunlight pushed through the blinds like it had no idea what the night had left behind. I sat on the edge of the bed, fully dressed. I hadn't slept, not really. Just closed my eyes and watched the inside of my eyelids burn. My phone had exploded overnight. Voicemails. Missed calls. Messages. All from her and Cassandra. One message stood out more than the rest. You've embarrassed us. Everyone knows. Congratulations. I unlocked my phone and opened Facebook, then Twitter. The church's page had posted something vague. In light of recent misunderstandings regarding donor reports, we affirm our commitment to transparency. No names. No details. But locals didn't need much to connect the dots. A thread in the neighborhood forum had already bloomed with speculation. Words like elder abuse, entitled daughter, financial betrayal were tossed around like confetti. I scrolled, numb at first, then came the heat. She was trying to own the story. Rewrite the roles. Paint me as the ungrateful villain, before I could even say a word. My jaw clenched. She knew how to manipulate emotion, especially in the public square. One quote rang clear in my mind, something my father used to say after board meetings went sideways: the first person to speak in a crisis often sounds right, until the truth arrives. I threw on a jacket, pulled my hair back, and headed for the office. By the time I arrived, the whispering had already begun. My assistant met me at my door. She closed it behind her and whispered, someone posted a long thread on the Ridgeview forum. They're saying you exploited your own parents. I didn't flinch. I just took my seat, opened my laptop, and found the post. The phrasing was classic. Vague enough to avoid legal trouble, sharp enough to wound. Guilt dressed up like a prayer. We raised her with love. We supported her education, her home. Now she's frozen our accounts. We're heartbroken. Please pray for us. My mother had written it. Maybe not with her hand, but certainly with her voice. I picked up the phone and called Quentin, my attorney. I want a cease and desist drafted. Today. He sighed. I can do that. But I have to say, public sympathy leans hard toward parents. Especially older ones. The more you push back, the colder you'll look. I'm not here to win popularity, I said. I'm here to stop a lie. Understood, he replied. Measured language. Nothing inflammatory. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. You don't win these things with fire, my father had told me once. You win by not burning down the wrong room. I inhaled, slow and steady. I would not yell. I would not post. I would not play the wounded daughter. I'd let her scream into the void, then I'd give people the proof. That afternoon, I met them at the cafe. She had insisted, face me like an adult, she said. She was already seated when I arrived, Cassandra at her side, arms crossed like a bodyguard. I didn't bother ordering. Mom opened with a sigh that begged for pity. We never wanted it to get to this, Juniper. But you forced our hand. I said nothing. She rambled. About how families should stick together. How I misunderstood. How I was always so suspicious. Her words blurred together, carefully rehearsed. When she paused for breath, I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. Laid it flat on the table. Next to it, a printed copy of the ledger spreadsheet. You already went public, I said. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. She looked at the paper like it might bite her. Cassandra leaned in, her voice sharp. You are so ungrateful. Everything Mom's done for you. I cut in, quiet and steady. Ungrateful implies I was given something. I was robbed. For a moment, the entire cafe seemed to pause. A fork clinked. A barista stopped wiping the counter. My mother's face went stiff. Cassandra stood and walked out. Mom followed, silent this time. I waited until the door closed, then stood and left. No receipt. No goodbye. Back in my car, I didn't go home right away. I drove toward the river and pulled into a small overlook. I sat there, engine off, window cracked. Emotionally, I was done. I typed a short email to Quentin. Hold the letter until tomorrow. Let's wait. They'll overplay. He replied, smart move. The wind picked up. A few kids laughed nearby. I opened my donation platform and started canceling my auto transfers. Each organization linked to my mother, gone. In their place, I opened new ones under a separate alias. I would still give. I just wouldn't fund her mask anymore. At one point, I whispered out loud, I used to pay for love. Now I pay for clarity. A pause. Then a quote I'd written on my mirror years ago flashed back, power isn't what you take from others. It's what you stop giving away. When I finally got home, I felt empty. But in a clean way. Like a room stripped bare after years of clutter. I made tea. Brushed my teeth. Was about to crawl into bed when my phone rang. Unknown number. I picked up. Ms. Hale, the voice said, cautious. This is Peter, from the Church Finance Committee. You probably don't know me, but, well, I thought you should be aware. Someone tried to withdraw all the remaining funds from the community account. Using your mother's login. I stood there in the dark, phone to my ear, tea cooling in my hand. She's not done yet, I whispered. I opened my laptop, logged into the dashboard. Notifications were already coming in: security alerts, failed logins, access requests. She wasn't backing off. But neither was I. I walked into the community hall feeling the weight of the last few days on my shoulders. The Sunday meeting was already underway. My mother, Dolores, entered ahead of me, smiling, shaking hands, surrounded by church volunteers who greeted her like she was the queen of the room. I took a seat near the back, phone in my pocket, heart steady but alert. The chairperson stood and cleared his throat. "Due to recent donor disputes, we will review our mission and finances," he announced. A ripple of murmurs moved through the room. I scanned familiar faces, people I grew up with, neighbors who used to wave and say hello, Juniper. Some of them avoided eye contact now. Dolores stepped up to the podium, delivering a speech about family values, loyalty, and sacrificing for those you love. She looked confident. Too confident. Inside I thought, they want to fight me with legacy. I'll respond with evidence. As she finished and the floor opened for questions, I raised my hand. The room paused. Chairs squeaked. People looked around. My voice didn't shake. "I'm Juniper Rowe, major donor for 4 years. I'd like to review the ledger publicly." The hush that followed was immediate. A few gasps. A few shifting glances. My mother's face tightened. The chairperson cleared his throat. "Can we schedule that review later?" he asked. "No," I replied. "You can start it now." The gasps turned into chatter. Some people frowned. Others stared at me as though they saw me for the first time. The split was declared. After the meeting, I found my attorney, Quentin Ash, waiting by the hallway exit. He handed me a printed subpoena sample. It revealed funds misdirected from the charity into personal accounts tied to my mother. My pulse quickened. I recall the mentor's remark, "When you pull the curtain, the mirrors behind it reflect more." I walked around, reaching out quietly to old friends who supported the cause. I showed them the evidence. Their surprise turned to outrage. I kept calm and said, "This isn't about money. This is about trust." In that moment, I understood, what they presented as family sacrifice was structured deception. The table had turned. That evening, at home, I worked in my study. I pulled up transfer logs, set alerts for suspicious activity, redirected my donations away from anything tied to the old network. I texted Dolores, "I'm reviewing our arrangement. Expect changes." I didn't expect a response. I imagined her reading those words, with the weight of the truth finally hitting her. I remembered my father's insight: you strengthen yourself not by holding on to things, but by letting go of what binds you. So I let go of the path they expected me to stay on. In the quiet of the night, I felt solid. At 11:57 p.m., my phone pinged. An alert from the charity account: unauthorized withdrawal attempt from an account using my mother's login credentials. I sat upright in bed, cold sweat on my forehead. I opened my laptop and typed "freeze transfer." The system registered the attempt within seconds. I whispered, "We're playing now." The mail came late that evening. The sky was heavy with summer rain, clouds pressing low over the neighborhood. I almost didn't check it. But when I opened the mailbox, there it was, a single brown envelope, hand-addressed in my mother's slanted script. Across the front, written in bold ink, "For final payment." I carried it inside, setting it on the counter like it might burn if I touched it too long. The house was quiet, just the faint hum of the refrigerator and the rain ticking against the windows. I tore it open. Inside was a check. Handwritten. The amount read, $0.00. On the memo line, one word, closure. For a moment, I just stared at it. My pulse kicked once, then steadied. She'd finally done it, her version of an ending. I thought of every $15,000 transfer, every phone call that started with "it's just this once," every time I made sure she had what she needed while telling myself it was love. The paper felt thin, almost fragile, but the message behind it wasn't. This wasn't an apology. It was a statement. I placed the check flat on the kitchen island. The soft overhead light caught its surface, and the ink glistened faintly. Outside, thunder rolled across the distance. I whispered, "You didn't settle the debt. You revealed the contract." It was never about money, it was about control. And now, with this ridiculous gesture, she'd finally put that truth in writing. I slipped the check back into its envelope and walked toward the garage. The rain hit harder now, drumming on the roof as I pushed the door open. She was there, my mother, packing boxes into the back of her SUV. Cassandra stood nearby, arms crossed, pretending to help. The smell of wet cardboard filled the air. "Juniper," my mother said with that calm, practiced voice. "This is it. The last payment." I stopped halfway across the garage. "You didn't ask me," I said. I stopped myself. Her face didn't move at first, but I saw a flicker in her eyes. The overhead light buzzed, the sound thick between us. I took the envelope and slid it across the hood of the car. "This," I said, "is where the ledger ends." She frowned, glanced down, then looked away. Cassandra tilted her head, trying to read the moment like an outsider watching a scene play out. "I funded you for years," I said quietly. "Today, I fund myself." Mom sighed, shaking her head. "You make it sound cruel. We all did what we had to do." I held her gaze. "No. You did what you chose to do. And you included me in what you did, but excluded me from who I am." Silence hung there. The air was thick with it. Cassandra spoke up, her voice tight. "You always have to make it dramatic, don't you?" I turned slightly toward her. "No drama. Just truth. Something you two never learned how to handle." Mom's hand gripped the edge of the SUV door. "You'll regret walking away, Juniper. Families, they always find their way back." "Maybe," I said. "But this time, I won't be waiting." I stepped back, letting the rain wash in through the open garage. "Keep the check," I said. "You might need it to remind yourself what closure costs." I didn't wait for her to respond. I walked out, leaving the door unlocked. The sound of her voice followed me halfway down the driveway, soft and bitter, but I didn't turn around. The streets were nearly empty when I drove off. Austin shimmered under wet streetlights, each one reflecting off the windshield like stars caught in glass. The rhythm of the wipers matched the quiet pulse in my chest, steady, certain. My father's words came back to me, "You don't walk away to hurt them. You walk away to show them they never owned your path." I stopped at a red light, my phone glowing beside me. The photo of the check stared back from my gallery. For a long second, I studied it, proof of how far I'd come and how far I'd let her pull me down. Then, without hesitation, I deleted it. A notification popped up immediately after, "Bank transfers confirmed. New allocations active." It felt final. The silence after a long noise. The first deep breath after holding it for too long. When I got home, I hung my jacket by the door and poured myself a glass of water. The house felt different now, still, but alive. I opened my laptop and joined a video call. A small nonprofits board filled the screen, faces I'd only met through emails. "Good evening, Ms. Hale," one of them said. "Evening," I replied. "I'd like to discuss your governance process." We talked for half an hour: numbers, ethics, community accountability. It felt right. I wasn't rescuing anyone this time. I was building something new. After the call ended, I stepped out onto the balcony. The rain had eased into a faint drizzle, and the Austin skyline glowed like a promise waiting to be kept. I leaned on the railing, the cool air brushing against my face. "This time," I said softly, "I give without being used." And for once, the silence didn't echo, it settled. The mail came late that evening. The sky was heavy with summer rain, clouds pressing low over the neighborhood. I almost didn't check it. But when I opened the mailbox, there it was, a single brown envelope, hand-addressed in my mother's slanted script. Across the front, written in bold ink, "For final payment." I carried it inside, setting it on the counter like it might burn if I touched it too long. The house was quiet, just the faint hum of the refrigerator and the rain ticking against the windows. I tore it open. Inside was a check. Handwritten. The amount read, $0.00. On the memo line, one word, closure. For a moment, I just stared at it. My pulse kicked once, then steadied. She'd finally done it, her version of an ending. I thought of every $15,000 transfer, every phone call that started with "it's just this once," every time I made sure she had what she needed while telling myself it was love. The paper felt thin, almost fragile, but the message behind it wasn't. This wasn't an apology. It was a statement. I placed the check flat on the kitchen island. The soft overhead light caught its surface, and the ink glistened faintly. Outside, thunder rolled across the distance. I whispered, "You didn't settle the debt. You revealed the contract." It was never about money, it was about control. And now, with this ridiculous gesture, she'd finally put that truth in writing. I slipped the check back into its envelope and walked toward the garage. The rain hit harder now, drumming on the roof as I pushed the door open. She was there, my mother, packing boxes into the back of her SUV. Cassandra stood nearby, arms crossed, pretending to help. The smell of wet cardboard filled the air. "Juniper," my mother said with that calm, practiced voice. "This is it. The last payment." I stopped halfway across the garage. "You didn't ask me," I said. I stopped myself. Her face didn't move at first, but I saw a flicker in her eyes. The overhead light buzzed, the sound thick between us. I took the envelope and slid it across the hood of the car. "This," I said, "is where the ledger ends." She frowned, glanced down, then looked away. Cassandra tilted her head, trying to read the moment like an outsider watching a scene play out. "I funded you for years," I said quietly. "Today, I fund myself." Mom sighed, shaking her head. "You make it sound cruel." "We all did what we had to do." I held her gaze. "No. You did what you chose to do. And you included me in what you did, but excluded me from who I am." Silence hung there. The air was thick with it. Cassandra spoke up, her voice tight. "You always have to make it dramatic, don't you?" I turned slightly toward her. "No drama. Just truth. Something you two never learned how to handle." Mom's hand gripped the edge of the SUV door. "You'll regret walking away, Juniper. Families, they always find their way back." "Maybe," I said. "But this time, I won't be waiting." I stepped back, letting the rain wash in through the open garage. "Keep the check," I said. You might need it to remind yourself what closure costs. I didn't wait for her to respond. I walked out, leaving the door unlocked. The sound of her voice followed me halfway down the driveway, soft and bitter, but I didn't turn around. The streets were nearly empty when I drove off. Austin shimmered under wet streetlights, each one reflecting off the windshield like stars caught in glass. The rhythm of the wipers matched the quiet pulse in my chest, steady, certain. My father's words came back to me, "You don't walk away to hurt them. You walk away to show them they never owned your path." I stopped at a red light, my phone glowing beside me. The photo of the check stared back from my gallery. For a long second, I studied it, proof of how far I'd come and how far I'd let her pull me down. Then, without hesitation, I deleted it. A notification popped up immediately after, bank transfers confirmed. New allocations active. It felt final. The silence after a long noise. The first deep breath after holding it for too long. When I got home, I hung my jacket by the door and poured myself a glass of water. The house felt different now, still, but alive. I opened my laptop and joined a video call. A small nonprofits board filled the screen, faces I'd only met through emails. "Good evening, Ms. Hale," one of them said. "Evening," I replied. "I'd like to discuss your governance process." We talked for half an hour, numbers, ethics, community accountability. It felt right. I wasn't rescuing anyone this time. I was building something new. After the call ended, I stepped out onto the balcony. The rain had eased into a faint drizzle, and the Austin skyline glowed like a promise waiting to be kept. I leaned on the railing, the cool air brushing against my face. "This time," I said softly, "I give without being used." And for once, the silence didn't echo, it settled. It's been 3 weeks since the confrontation. The noise faded quicker than I expected, calls stopped, gossip moved on, and my phone finally went quiet. The mornings feel different now. Lighter. I wake before sunrise without the familiar rush of dread. I pour coffee and stand in the same kitchen where that brown envelope once lay. The counter is clear now except for a single white orchid my assistant gave me. Its petals open slowly under the morning light. I don't need to fill the silence anymore, it fills itself. I scroll through my inbox, clearing junk, deleting reminders I don't need. One unread message catches my eye. No subject line. It's from Cassandra. I stare at it for a long time, then swipe it away. I don't feel guilt, just finality. Peace, I've learned, isn't the absence of noise. It's the absence of permission for noise to own you. By noon, I'm driving out of town, the highway stretching toward Lake Travis. The air smells like cedar and sun-warmed stone. For years, I drove the same road with my jaw clenched and my thoughts heavy. Now, it feels like the road is finally carrying me somewhere instead of back to the same pain. The cabin appears just as I remembered, small, worn, but solid. My father's place. The one spot no one ever managed to stain with drama. I push open the door, the hinges groaning in protest. The air inside is still and dusty, carrying the faint scent of old wood and time. I open the windows, letting the wind sweep through, stirring the curtains. It smells like rain far off. The wooden desk still sits against the far wall, where my father used to write his letters he never mailed, but left stacked in neat piles. I run my hand across the surface, rough with age. One drawer sticks when I pull it open. Inside is a small book, a copy of Leaves of Grass. Between its pages, folded neatly, is a note. His handwriting. I recognize it instantly. You can't protect people by carrying their weight. You protect them by teaching them to carry their own. I sit there, the paper trembling slightly in my hands. I read it twice. Then again. My chest tightens, but it's not grief this time. It's gratitude. It's understanding. For the first time, I realize I've stopped wanting her to understand me. That part of me doesn't need to exist anymore. I fold the note back into the book, set it on the desk, and whisper, "Thank you." When I drive back to Austin, the sky is wide and forgiving. I roll the windows down, letting the wind hit my face. I don't feel small anymore. Just human and free. Back at the office, I finalize the documents for my new foundation, the Row Initiative. The mission statement is simple: support women who've been financially exploited by the people they trusted most. Quentin stops by my desk, coffee in hand. "So you're turning pain into policy now?" he says with that familiar half-smile. I look up. "No," I answer. "I'm turning lessons into leverage." That evening, I stand behind a lectern at a small community center. The audience isn't big, 30, maybe 40 people. Most of them women with tired eyes and strong shoulders. I tell them the truth without dressing it up. Sometimes, I say, love costs too much when you're the only one paying the bill. A quiet settles over the room. Heads nod. I see recognition, not pity. That's how I know the message landed. It's not about revenge, it's about recovery. Later, as the sun sets, I walk along the river trail. The city skyline glows on the water. I stop at the bridge, leaning against the railing where I once stood during nights that felt endless. For years, I believed forgiveness meant giving others peace. Now I see, it means reclaiming your own. The air is cool against my skin. My phone buzzes in my pocket, but I don't check it. I don't owe anyone that kind of access anymore. I close my eyes and breathe. Finally, I whisper, "I don't owe anyone anything, not even an explanation." The wind moves through the trees, scattering the sound of water below. It feels like a full stop. The next morning, sunlight breaks through the blinds. There's a letter on the doorstep, not from my family, but from someone I don't know. The handwriting is shaky but deliberate. I open it carefully. "Your story helped me cut ties with someone who kept taking and calling it love." I read it twice. Then I smile, a real one this time. I fold the letter and set it next to the orchid on my counter. "That's how legacy should work," I say softly. The house is quiet, but it's a good quiet. The kind that stays. The kind that tells you you've finally arrived at peace without needing anyone else to validate it. And for the first time, I realize the past isn't something I escaped, it's something I outgrew.